Welcome to the deep dive. We're here again to sort of unpack some complex information, pull out the key stuff, and, well, help you get a really solid grasp on things without all the extra noise.
Exactly. We sift through the material you provide and aim straight for those core ideas, those surprising bits that might just shift how you think about a topic.
And today we're diving into something, well, pretty universal actually, fear and anxiety. These are things that, everyone experiences, and they can seriously hold us back sometimes. The source material we're looking at today is based on a transcript from a really popular online video, and it offers a take on handling these feelings that might be, well, quite different from what you've heard before.
Yeah, our mission here is to extract the main arguments, the sort of counterintuitive points, and especially the actionable techniques from this source. We want to explore how it suggests you could manage fear, maybe not by fighting it, but by working with your own biology.
Absolutely. And the material, it jumps right in. It sort of sets the stage by challenging some really common ideas about fear. It hints at what it calls a kind of secret weapon. But before that, it tackles this notion that fear isn't, well, that it isn't real.
Right. It really pushes back on that. Calls it such a bunch of baloney, I think is the phrase used.
Yeah.
And you can feel the conviction there. It's basically saying, hey, let's get real. Fear is a tangible, physical, gut level thing.
Definitely.
Telling someone it's not real, that just dismisses what they're actually feeling, the racing heart, the sweaty palms, all of it.
Which feels instantly validating, doesn't it? Because anyone who's felt that genuine panic, that knot in their stomach, knows it's absolutely real. So the material starts right there, grounding the discussion in that shared reality. Yes, fear is real. It matters.
And it doesn't just leave it there. It goes right into spelling out the very real impact fear has, how it limits our lives. It's not abstract. The source details, specific ways fear acts like a cage.
Like travel, for instance. It mentions being afraid to fly. That's not just some vague discomfort.
Yeah.
It means maybe missing weddings, missing seeing family, missing out on, incredible life experiences or even job opportunities. That fear literally makes your world smaller.
Or public speaking, another big one highlighted in the material.
Oh, yeah.
That fear of just standing up, sharing your ideas. It's not just about stage fright. The source points out it can stop you from contributing in meetings, from teaching, from sharing, your unique viewpoint. It basically silences people, keeps good ideas locked up.
And it hits closer to home, too, like with our careers or finances. The material mentions being afraid of talking to your boss or asking for a raise.
That's huge.
Imagine knowing you're worth more or needing to speak up for yourself, but being just paralyzed by that fear. It directly impacts your income, your career path, even how you feel about yourself professionally. It can have these massive ripple effects.
It even touches on starting your own thing, right? Like entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
If you've got a great idea, but you're afraid to talk to people or afraid to share your business, that basic fear just stops you dead in your tracks. Networking, sales, getting the word out, it all involves putting yourself out there. Fear blocks that, and the dream just stalls.
The material really hammers home that this isn't some small niche issue. Fear is something that stops us all. It's universal. It stops people from pursuing things they're passionate about, connecting with others, taking calculated risks, really living fully.
Exactly. And that's why this deep dive is so interesting, because the source doesn't just describe the problem. It claims to offer a practical way through it.
Okay, and this is where, according to the outline, it gets, well, really surprising. It brings in this biological angle that kind of turns things on their head.
Yeah, this is the core scientific claim, the really eye-opening part of the material. It states, very directly, that fear and excitement are the exact same physical state in the body.
The exact same.
The exact same. The transcript even says, let me say that again, fear and excitement are the exact same physical state. It wants you to really get that.
Wow. Because they feel so different, right?
Yeah.
Fear feels bad, excitement feels good.
Subjectively, yes. But the material is focused on the raw physiology. What's actually happening inside your body, biologically speaking?
Okay, so what are those shared physical signs?
Well, it lists them out. Think about it. When you're scared, your heart races.
Yeah.
Right? When you're excited about something, your heart races too.
Sure.
When you're nervous, maybe giving a presentation, you might sweat. The material uses that specific example. Armpits are sweating.
Yes, relatable.
But when you're, say, waiting to go on a roller coaster, you might also get sweaty palms, feel that same kind of physical buzz.
Okay, I see that. What else?
Both can cause that tightening in your chest, or that feeling in your stomach, butterflies, or a pit, depending on how you label it. And chemically, both involve a surge of hormones like cortisol. Your body's basically hitting the accelerator, going into the state of high alert.
So the internal alarm system is the same whether it thinks you're about to be eaten by a tiger or about to go bungee jumping.
Pretty much. The material describes this as the body entering a hyper-aware state. It's mobilizing resources, getting ready for action, making you sharp and attentive. It's a state of high arousal.
Okay, so the body's geared up, ready for something.
Right. Ready to either fight or flight, or maybe just perform at your peak, engage fully. The initial physical readiness signal is identical.
So if the physical state is identical, what is the difference? Why does one feel like terror and the other like exhilaration?
And this is the absolute crux of the argument in the material. The only difference, it claims, is what your brain is doing, or what your brain calls it, while your body's in that revved up state.
Just the label.
Just the label your brain applies based on context and interpretation. Imagine you're at the top of that roller coaster drop. Your heart's pounding, maybe you feel a bit shaky. Your body is definitely aroused.
Right.
But your brain, knowing you chose this, that it's supposed to be fun, interprets those signals and thinks, whoa, this is going to be awesome. Label. Excitement.
Okay.
Now, same physical feelings, heart pounding, muscles tense, but you're walking down a dark alley and hear footsteps behind you. Your brain interprets those exact same signals completely differently based on the context. It thinks, danger, get out, run, label, fear.
Wow, so the feeling itself, the raw physical sensation, is neutral until the brain slaps a label on it based on the story it's telling itself.
Precisely. The subjective experience is constructed by the interpretation.
And that leads straight into the strategy then, if the only difference is the label.
Then the way to manage fear is to consciously change that label. It's about using your mind to guide the interpretation of that physical agitation, to frame it as readiness, as positive anticipation, not as danger, turning fear into excitement.
Okay, that makes a weird kind of sense.
And this biological foundation is why the material argues that a lot of the usual advice we get for fear, well, it doesn't quite hit the mark, or might even make things worse.
Right, let's unpack that critique. The source takes aim at some common refrains, like, feel the fear and do it anyway.
A classic.
Or just, try to calm down.
Yeah, it's easier said than done.
And the big one, just think positive thoughts.
Right. The material basically says these approaches on their own doesn't work effectively, and it uses that biology to explain why.
Okay, so why don't they work, according to this? Let's start with calm down.
Well, think about the mismatch. When you're afraid, your body is, as we said, highly aroused, agitated, amped up, heart pounding, maybe freaking out a little bit, as the source puts it. High energy state.
Got it. High arousal.
Now, what's the state of being calm? The material calls it kind of chill. It's a low arousal state. Slow heart rate, relaxed muscles, serene.
Okay, opposite ends of the spectrum.
Exactly. And the material argues that trying to jump directly from that peak agitation of fear straight down to total calm is very, very difficult.
Right.
Use this really vivid analogy. Trying to do that is like trying to stop a train by throwing a boulder on the tracks.
Oof. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
It causes a disaster, the material says.
Yeah.
The point is, you're fighting your body's current momentum. It creates this internal conflict, this friction, and might actually make you feel more panic because you can't instantly calm down.
It's like trying to go from a full sprint to a dead stop instantly. Yeah. Your body's primed for action, and you're telling it to just chill. It doesn't compute.
Right. You're working against the energy that's already there. And then there's the point about ignoring fear or just using positive thinking alone.
Yeah, that was surprising. The material mentions research.
It does. It says they've proven in research that trying to suppress fear or just papering over it with positive affirmations without dealing with the underlying physical state and its interpretation can actually make them worse.
Make them worse? How?
Well, the implication seems to be that if you don't address the misinterpretation of that physical arousal, the fear just gets pushed down, maybe festers, maybe pops up later, even stronger, or in different ways. These methods try to bypass the body's state instead of redirecting it.
So ignoring it or forcing calm doesn't leverage the fact that the body's state is already identical to excitement.
Exactly. They try to shut down the energy instead of harnessing it, which leads us to the alternative proposed in the material.
Yeah.
The secret weapon.
Okay, let's get into that. This is the core technique, the strategy the source creator apparently uses personally in high-stakes situations. It's a combo, right? The 5-second rule plus an anchor thought.
Yes, and it's designed specifically to work with that biological reality, to leverage that high arousal state and reinterpret it.
All right, break it down for us. Part 1, the 5-second rule. What is it and what does it supposedly do?
The action itself is super simple. You can just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can do it out loud or in your head.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, why that?
The material explains that this specific backward count isn't random. It requires a little bit of focus, a conscious mental action, and it's designed to do several key things when you feel that fear or anxiety kicking in.
Like what?
First, it helps switch the gears in your mind. If your brain is heading down the panic track, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 acts like a mental gear shift or a way to interrupt that momentum.
Okay, an interruption.
And crucially, it's said to awaken your prefrontal cortex. That's the front part of your brain, the CEO, the part responsible for rational thought, decision-making, impulse control.
The thinking part, not the reacting part.
Exactly. When fear hits hard, the more primitive reactive parts, like the amygdala, can kind of hijack the system, pushing the prefrontal cortex aside. Counting backward forces that rational part back online.
So it puts you back in conscious control.
That's the idea. The material says it triggers your brain that you're now in control of your thoughts. It's an active intervention.
It interrupts the fear, breaks that spiral.
Yes, and it settles your thoughts just enough to create a brief pause, a moment of clarity in the mental chaos.
And importantly, it prepares the brain for what's next.
Right. The countdown makes the brain ready for that anchor thought. It creates this little window where you can consciously insert a new direction before the fear fully takes hold again.
And the material stresses this part is essential.
Very much so. Step 1, and it's essential. You need that interruption, that activation of the conscious brain for the next part to land effectively.
Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 creates the opening. Then comes part 2, the anchor thought. What's that?
An anchor thought is something you choose deliberately ahead of time. It's a pre-planned mental image or idea that you can grab onto when you feel fear rising. It's meant to anchor you to something positive or constructive.
What's its purpose?
Its main job is to help you maintain control over what you're thinking and how you behave. To stop that initial fear surge from snowballing into full panic or causing you to freeze up or run away to screw things up, as the material puts it.
Yeah, like a mental safe harbor. What makes a good anchor thought, according to the source?
2 key things. First, it needs to be in the proper context of what you're afraid to do. It should relate somehow to the situation causing the fear.
Why a context?
Because that helps your brain connect the positive thought to the current challenge. It makes the reframing more believable, less random. And second, ideally it should be something that makes me happy. It makes me excited. You want to link it to positive feelings.
Gotcha. Does the material give examples?
Yes, really concrete ones. For fear of flying, if you're flying to see family in Michigan, say, the anchor thought isn't about the plane. It's a positive image of the destination. The source creator uses her own example, vividly picturing herself and my mom and I walking on the shores of Lake Michigan. Happy, specific, tied to the reason for flying.
Okay, that makes sense. What about something like a difficult conversation?
Right, like talking to your boss about a raise. The anchor thought isn't the scary conversation itself. It's focusing on the feeling after it goes well.
Ah, the positive outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like imagining picking up the phone and calling somebody that you love and saying, oh my gosh, it went so well. Or picturing yourself walking out of the meeting and feeling like, yeah, I survived. I feel pretty good about myself. You anchor to that future feeling of relief and accomplishment.
So let me recap the sequence. Step 1, feel the fear starting. Step 2, immediately count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step 3, instantly pivot to your pre-chosen, positive, context-relevant anchor thought.
Precisely. And it's in that pivot, that moment after the countdown, when you insert the anchor thought, that the reframing happens. The biological trick, if you will.
Okay, explain that. What happens in the brain then, according to the material?
So your body's already buzzing with that high arousal energy, same as excitement. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 has just interrupted the fear interpretation and woken up your conscious brain.
Right, the prefrontal cortex is online.
Then you feed it this new information. The positive anchor thought, walking on the beach feeling good after the meeting. This anchor thought gives the brain a plausible, positive reason for why your body is feeling so energized.
So the brain goes, body's revved up, but I'm thinking about this exciting thing.
Exactly. The material says you just tricked your brain. But it's really about providing a better interpretation. You're giving it a positive narrative that fits the physical sensations.
Yeah.
Instead of danger, the story becomes anticipation or purpose.
And because the physical state is the same for fear and excitement, the brain accepts the new label you've provided, especially since you interrupted the old one.
That's the core mechanism described. Body agitated plus interrupted fear plus positive anchor thought. Brain concludes, okay, I guess this feeling is excitement for that positive thing.
Does the material offer examples of this reframing in action?
Oh yeah, very vivid ones. The source creator talks about her own public speaking anxiety.
Okay, classic example.
She describes being backstage, hearing the crowd, feeling the heart pound, the armpits are sweating, all the typical fear signals.
Yeah.
But instead of letting her brain run with the fear label, she consciously intercepts it. She tells herself, I'm excited.
Just says it.
Yes, but crucially, she connects it to her purpose. She tells her brain why she's excited. I'm excited to get out there, excited to talk to these people, excited to share the 5-sec rule.
Providing the context again.
Exactly. The material explains this, gives the brain a reason for the agitation. It sends a message to my brain that tells my brain why my body's all agitated and excited. So the brain adopts the excitement frame, and that energy fuels the talk instead of hindering it.
Okay, that's powerful. What about the flying example with turbulence? That hits home for a lot of people.
Right. So picture being on a plane, turbulence hits. Instantly, your body reacts, you tense up, stomach drops, nervousness surges.
Standard reaction.
And the material acknowledges you probably can't stop that initial physical jolt. That's autonomic. But it emphasizes you can always control what I'm thinking about, and I can always control how I act.
You have control over the interpretation and response.
Yes. So turbulence hits, fear starts building. Instead of letting it spiral, you deploy the technique. First, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Interrupt. Engage conscious brain.
Then immediately pivot to the anchor thought. In her example, vividly thinking about walking on that Lake Michigan beach with family, focusing intensely on that positive destination image, and telling yourself, I'm so excited to walk on the shores of Lake Michigan.
So the brain's logic loop goes, body agitated? Check. Fear interpretation interrupted? Check. Positive thought about Michigan trip inserted? Check. Conclusion.
Huh. Mel must be really excited to get to Michigan. The brain accepts the excitement explanation because it aligns with the conscious input you provided, overriding the default fear response.
Yeah.
The energy is still there, but it's now framed as positive anticipation.
Wow. And the material includes stories from listeners who've used this.
Yes, and they're quite compelling. It mentions a Dana who used it for flying and reported feeling calmer than ever before on a plane. Think about the freedom that provides.
Huge.
And someone named Sarah, described as being petrified of flying, used the technique. And the outcome. The material mentions seeing a photo of her on a helicopter tour in Hawaii.
Whoa, from petrified to helicopter tour.
Right. It highlights not just the experience itself, but the feeling of empowerment from actually doing it, from overcoming that deep fear.
That's incredible. Any others?
There's Carol, who struggled with public speaking fear. Applied the technique consistently, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, anchor thought, reframe, and she was able to beat her fear and give a speech to her nursing colleagues.
Fantastic.
And for Carol, the material notes, this wasn't just a small win. It was a life goal and also something she checked off her bucket list. It really underscores how many potential achievements might be blocked by fear.
These examples really drive home that central message, don't they? That you might not control the initial feeling, but you can control the thought and the action.
Absolutely. You can't control the feelings that are going to rise up in your body. But you can always control what you think, and you can always make a decision about the actions you're going to take. It puts the power back in your hands.
Okay, so for someone listening who wants to try this, what's the quick summary of the steps from the material when you feel that fear creep in?
Step 1, recognize it. Notice the physical sensation, the agitation starting.
Awareness first, then.
Immediately count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Interrupt the pattern.
Got it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step 3.
Instantly go to your pre-chosen anchor thought. Bring that positive contextual image or feeling vividly to mind.
Anchor thought. And finally.
Step 4. Consciously tell yourself, I am excited. Link the physical feeling you have to that positive anchor thought or your goal. Seal the reframe.
Recognize 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anchor thought. I am excited.
Yeah.
The material calls this beating fear in 5 seconds flat.
Yeah, it frames it as a very rapid, in-the-moment intervention. Yeah. Something you can use right when you need it to stop the spiral.
And the source creator encourages celebrating successes.
Yes, acknowledging when it works for you, even suggesting using a hashtag like hashtag 5-second rule, kind of building a community around it.
And importantly, it also mentions seeking support if you need help applying it.
Right. The transcript explicitly provides an email address, hello@melrobbins.com, for people to ask questions about tailoring anchor thoughts or troubleshooting the technique. It's presented as a practical tool, and help is offered for using it effectively.
Which emphasizes its practical, tool-based nature. It's meant to be used and refined.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. We've looked at the material's strong stance that fear is undeniably real and limiting. We uncovered that really surprising biological claim. Fear and excitement share the exact same physical state. The only difference is the brain's interpretation.
Right, the label we apply.
And then we detailed the core strategy presented using the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to interrupt fear and activate the conscious brain.
And then immediately inserting a pre-planned, positive, contextual anchor thought to consciously reframe that physical arousal as useful excitement, not paralyzing fear.
It's a fascinating set of ideas pulled directly from the source material you shared, offering a very different hands-on approach to managing anxiety and fear. Less about suppression, more about redirection.
Working with the energy, not against it.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on a bit, based on this core idea of reframing.
If it's true, as the material suggests, that we can consciously guide our brains to reinterpret the intense physical signature of fear as excitement, just by interrupting the default label and providing a new positive context. Well, what else could this apply to?
Yeah, are there other feelings, other physical states that we might be habitually mislabeling? How much of our day-to-day emotional experience is shaped purely by the automatic stories our brains tell us about our body's signals?
Could we perhaps have more influence over our emotional landscape than we think, simply by becoming more mindful of those physical signals and more intentional about the interpretations, the narratives we attach to them?
It certainly opens up some interesting possibilities for navigating our inner world, something to consider.
We'll leave you with that. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.